writing in English is, I think, natural should be natural for all writers who live and come here and live here. And English has such a vast literature, the books and experimentation and all that. Why would you avoid it? As I said in Surti, my first book, I was quite a bit influenced by the newness of the Canadian poetry. I also even translated surrealistic poetry into Punjabi. So it's Michael Bullock. He was a surrealist writer. So I translated his book into Punjabi, which was received quite well actually in Punjab. And so why should you restrict yourself just to your language if you can? Although I don't want to give you a wrong impression. If I were living in Punjab, like if I were living in my village around, my first concern would be to catch, to express the sorrow and solaces of my people. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਦੁੱਖ ਸੁੱਖ ਆ, that would be my first priority in Punjabi, in their language. And I wouldn't, sitting there, I wouldn't care if it's translated or not into English. I think that's the real purpose, real function, you see the words bother me, of the writer. ਆਪਣੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਦੁੱਖ ਸੁੱਖ ਅਭਿਵਿਅਕਤ ਕਰਨੇ, express ਕਰਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ੁਬਾਨ ਦੇਣੀ creatively, of course. That should be the first. And then if you have come here, why not to expand your experience? I still love more about our people, but with the new experience. Now I am working on, it's almost complete, Dalit poems. So they are all about our Dalit people sitting there, because I was born there, I have the experience. Then I also worked Dalit people here in Surrey, and so that kind of touched me and bothered me like racism does. So, but Dalit phenomena is the worst kind of racism in the world. Well, black slavery was also very bad, and Dalit is not less than that. It's a beyond kind of like their feelings. The baby that's born into a Dalit family from a Dalit womb, what she or he would face, only they can experience it. And the funny thing is, it's not their fault. So most of the effort should be non-Dalits people, because they created this Dalit phenomena. Of course, it's a Hindu religion, which is great in other aspects, they created one of the best and greatest literature in the world in Sanskrit, and I think most voluminous in the world, including Greek, the Sanskrit literature. And Mahabharata is considered one of the top epics, even the Ramayana. But they also created caste system, Hindu religion, which is the dark side. And it's not their fault, not Dalit's fault. It's very important to understand. It's the so-called higher castes who created, and they should fight, struggle, try to eradicate it, and that's not happening. But I'm writing, this is all in English though, these poems, because I want to spread it more, the message, more widely. It probably could be translated into Punjabi later. Actually three levels we can talk about. One is my original writing, and the other is translations, and the third is my inclusion in other books or other magazines. Like my poems have been included in several important books here. Best poems in BC, writer portraits of BC writers, I think. For example, this book is about the portraits of BC writers, and it also includes one poem, but mostly this you, I think, recognize, Nobel laureate, our BC, and this is, for example, mine. So they came to our house and took the pictures and stuff, and so this is actually the 111 West Coast Literary Portraits. So there are several other books like, these in which I am included. For example, this is the latest, it's 100 Great Indian Poems. So this is Abhay Kumar, and this is 3,000 old poems. He started with 3,000 old poems, like from Vedas and up to the modern times. So he also included my poem in this one, Kali. And then so recently, this is also a great poet, Heather. She's Governor General Prize winner, and it's a line by line. This is an anthology of Canadian poetry. So that we Mary Hagian, Astra. So I can give you 7. Like, look what she made of me. She's a painter, quite well known. This is, I was chairing a meeting in the Writers Union of Canada when I didn't know when she did this. And she used it in this book. So like this book has a Black November. This is about Sikh massacre of 1984, and there are 3 poems, my poems in this one too. Like there are stories and essays and poems. So she started with my poems in this one. I think most important translation, I have done several, but this is the last flicker. This is Gurdiyal Singh's novel Madi the Diva. So this one I did, and he insisted that only I translate it, because someone else has translated in full, then they rejected. And so this was published by the this one is published by the, I think, National Book Trust, but the first edition was published by the Writers Sahitya Academy of India. So this is another one. It's I think I already mentioned. It's a Kotar Sa Para Yatharthwadi Kavita by Michael Bullock. This is 101 surrealistic poems translation. This is our picture. This is Michael Bullock, and this is Michael Bullock. This is me. This is Lorianne, is another surrealist painter, and so we were just happened to be together at Michael's house. So she wanted to take this picture, so I just gave it in this one. We are on the floor. This is a very rugged rural Punjabi Gurdial Singh used, but I happened to come from the same area, so I could understand it. I've been, this has been of course liked also, but this has also been criticized. So one of the critic was quite a well-known American critic. This one is Jeremy Munday. This is third edition of his book, and he devotes a section to this, my translation. Not all rosy. He thinks that I uprooted the idiom, Punjabi idiom, from Punjabi characters and converted into English idiom, English spoken like in New York or Montreal or Vancouver. And so because this is very colloquial rural language, so I tried to find the equivalent F word and all that. And they thought, he thinks that it's not right. But he doesn't say like this, but I can sense it. And he somehow thinks that the colloquialism should be preserved. But my idea was that if I have to go for international audience, then I should use the most prevalent idiom of English and the one I am comfortable with. So I am comfortable with North American idiom. It's not a sophisticated language, North American. It's a F word and goddamn and all that, because it's like comes from Punjabi equivalent. So I still think I'm right, despite. Now from this one of our professor critics, Rana Nayyar, he even took it further and said that I have taken my liberty too much and used this idiom here. So I don't know, I think I'm still right, what I did. I feel. Then I was in a conference in University of Toronto, and the session was on translation. So the translation, I said that the translator should always have the reader before her or him, that he's like in this one I was mostly addressing to the most I thought was North American English idiom, and it's quite prevalent even in India. They understand it almost everywhere, even in Australia or whatever. So I said the audience should be in mind. So guess what, who was in the audience? Of course, there was Vasanji, a very famous novelist, and others, but there was also a very famous South Indian actor, director and writer. So he said, nope, I don't care about the audience. When we were arguing a little bit on this one, whether audience is important or not. So anyway, so this I just telling you the story of this book. So it has been quite exciting, different viewpoints of translation, what a translation should do. So I learned a lot, When I translated it, I didn't know that people have so many different views about translation. I'm as busy as I was in my 30s, 40s. So luckily, my faculties are especially cognition and logic and experience are the same. Only the names, the proper names, somehow I skip. That's the only difference. So the memory not bad. So I'm working just like as I used to, and it's a bit more now because there's more time available. So I'm reading my book of Dalit poems. That's not sure yet, but it's The Broke and the Broken. I have sent it to Navtej just to have another look. So that's would be published, hopefully by a publisher here, but Navtej thinks it should be published in India. And then there's a Greek friend, Manolis. He has big books there. He and I am going to do a common book, my poems in Greek and his poems in Punjabi. So we are just side by side. So he has already translated about 40 of my poems, and I have translated his. That's also near publication. And then I'm also working on short stories. I don't know why, but the last 3-4 years, the short stories have been coming to me like forcefully. It used to be, sometimes it's poetry, that's quite now in the past. Then the things just happen in your mind in like plays. So you see something, experience something, there's a stage in your brain and it's happening there when you're writing plays. So I'm also working, my most recent play was Mele Hath, Tainted Hands. That's again, that's on child sexual abuse. So I didn't want to write it, but then a women's group, they came and they just, forced, they just plead that I write for them. So I did. It went very successful here in Surrey Art Center. And then they wanted to make a movie on it. So I wrote the screenplay, the script for the movie. And that was luckily approved by Canada Council. Sorry. And so they gave me about $50,000 to complete it, which I have done. But the film probably would be done next year or so. COVID upset everything. Then there's another story of mine on which somebody wants to make a film in Ontario. Actually, he used to be a director of TV station there, the famous TV, what's Indian TV station. Anyway, he wants to make a movie, so I'm going to write a script, movie, screenplay for him. So these are some of the activities I'm undertaking. So lots of stuff comes from other people, like some seminar, some paper, some. So recently I joined Khalsa College Gujranwala in Punjab on the translation. Then before that there was a translation from UP in Hindi people, and that keeps on happening, these little things, but they do take time though. So that's what I'm working on. I'm sure there is something else also, but I don't recall. Oh, I have to get this republished, Vishwadi Nuhar. So, but the creative original writing is stories. Oh yeah, they also I have to get them published. It's about 2 books now. So what happened was suddenly the Punjabi culture, my rural village culture, which I experienced in my childhood, it suddenly popped up, and I realized that no writer has really wrote about it, expressed it. So I wrote stories on my village people, something I had learned from my father, so it extends back another 50, 60 years. Like there was a plague in the beginning of the 20th century, 1900 something. It's a fascinating story that I wrote, I had heard from my father. And then there were several things which we can't even imagine in that culture. So I've written stories about that. And then some stories about our people here. So they are all in Punjabi though. As an engineer, I had great advantage due to writing. So I could write a report which others couldn't, could write easily. And engineers are supposed to make 20% more if they are good writers. Same would probably be going to your professions, because writing is, an important part of expression. The more Punjabi people migrate, the more Punjabi would be strengthened as a language. It will become more prevalent. It would be most likely translated into other languages. But before that, its level has to come up in Canada. Because international level is quite high, especially fiction novels and short stories. The poetry is fine, it's very experimentation, but our writer has to come up. They should be more participating in mainstream writers writing. So I always ask or advise, if you want to use the word, our Punjabi young writers like you, writers, that don't just restrict yourself to Punjabi. That's all. It's great that you are doing Punjabi, but don't close yourself. Don't keep yourself closed. Be open. Even if you write Punjabi, it will help you. You absorb new ideas, new styles, and try to go beyond that. So just become part of the world community. So I should read something. That's our thesis on the page and mind, but I believe it. ਸਾਡਾ ਵਿਸ਼ਵਾਸ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਲੇਖਕ ਧਰਤੀ ਉੱਤੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਨ, ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਵਿਦੇਸ਼ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਹੀਂ। ਅਸੀਂ ਧਰਤੀ ਨੂੰ ਟੋਟੇ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੀਆਂ ਰਾਜਨੀਤਿਕ ਸਰਹੱਦਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੰਨਣ ਤੋਂ ਇਨਕਾਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਇਹ ਮਸਨੂਈ ਹਨ ਅਤੇ ਹਿੰਸਾ ਨਾਲ ਬਣਾਈਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਹਨ। ਸਾਡਾ ਸਰੋਕਾਰ ਮਨੁੱਖ ਦੇ ਦੁੱਖ ਸੁੱਖ ਨਾਲ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦੇ ਜਿਉਂਦੇ ਰਹਿਣ ਦੀ ਤਾਂਘ ਨਾਲ, ਘਾਹ ਦੀ ਉਸ ਤਿੜ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵਿਛ ਰਹੇ ਮਾਰੂਥਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਰਿਆਵਲ ਨੂੰ ਫੜੀ ਰੱਖਦੀ ਆ। ਸੋ ਦੈਟਸ ਵਾਟ ਵੀ ਆਰ। We belong to the earth, not a country or foreign country or this and that. So if ਕਿਸਾਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਤੀ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਪੰਜਾਬ 'ਚ, that's our concern too. If ਅਫਰੀਕਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਤੀ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ, ਕਾਂਗੋ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਂ ਹੋਰ ਥਾਂ, that's also our concern. Not only this area, right? Although we would be better at expressing Indian Punjabi situations because we came from there, but every part of humanity, every culture concerns a writer, an artist. So that's what we are. So that was my attitude when I came here also, and that made things much easier for me, because this also belongs to me, this whole thing, not only Punjab or India. I'm not just repenting or writing just about what I was in Punjab. So ਟਾਹਲੀਆਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਲੱਗਦੀਆਂ ਸੀ ਉੱਥੇ, ਇੱਥੇ ਮੇਪਲ ਵੀ ਉਨੇ ਸੋਹਣੇ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਆ। ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਕਿਤਾਬਾਂ ਦਾ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ। ਆਈ ਡੋਂਟ ਥਿੰਕ ਇਟਸ ਰਾਈਟ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਦਾ ਇਨਫਲੂਐਂਸ ਹੈ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਨੂੰ ਪਰੇ ਕਰ ਦੇਵੇਗਾ। ਵਨ ਰੀਜ਼ਨ ਇਜ਼ ਕਿ ਕਾਫੀ ਟਾਈਮ ਸਿਰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸਕ੍ਰਿਪਟ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਰਾਈਟਿੰਗ ਹੈ ਇਹਨੇ ਕੰਪਿਊਟਰ ਨੂੰ ਅਡਾਪਟ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ, ਔਨਲਾਈਨ ਨੂੰ ਅਡਾਪਟ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ। ਜੇ ਇਹਦੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਰਹਿ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਇਟ ਵੁੱਡ ਹੈਵ ਬੀਨ ਵੈਰੀ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ। ਹੁਣ ਆਲਮੋਸਟ ਐਨੀ ਅਦਰ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ ਔਨਲਾਈਨ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਲਿਖ ਲਓ ਅਤੇ ਈਮੇਲ ਕਰ ਦਿਓ, ਕੁਛ ਕਰ ਲਿਓ, ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਛ ਇਸਨੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਅਡਾਪਟ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ ਲੱਕੀਲੀ। ਸੋ ਇਹਦਾ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕਿਤਾਬਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਫਾਰਮ ਬਦਲ ਸਕਦੀ ਆ, ਇਹ ਔਨਲਾਈਨ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀਆਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕਿ ਆ ਰਹੀਆਂ, ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਠੀਕ ਆ। ਫਿਊਚਰ ਬਾਕੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ ਐਜ਼ ਯੂ ਨੋ ਇਟਸ ਅ ਹਿਊਜ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ, ਇਟਸ 10th ਲਾਰਜੈਸਟ ਇਨ ਦਾ ਵਰਲਡ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜਸ, ਥਾਊਜ਼ੈਂਡਸ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜਸ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ। ਇਟਸ ਅਬਾਊਟ 120 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ ਪੀਪਲ ਸਪੀਕ। ਅਤੇ ਜੇ ਅਬਾਊਟ 500,000 ਤਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ 'ਚ, 250,000 ਇਨ ਸਟੇਟਸ ਵਿੱਚ। So it's becoming global also. So when it becomes global, it absorbs new ideas, new images, future, what's coming in future. So it can absorb all these things and then connect with the mainstream Punjabi literature as we are doing. So it's the future is pretty good. ਕੋਈ ਡਰਨ ਵਾਲੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਂ not that's how at least I think. And besides ਇੱਥੇ ਕਾਫੀ reputed writer move ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਆ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਰਘਬੀਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਹੁਣ ਐਡੀਟਰ ਆ, ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਆ ਗਿਆ। ਵਰਿਆਮ ਸੰਧੂ ਵੈਰੀ ਵੈਲ ਨੋਨ ਸਟੋਰੀ ਰਾਈਟਰ, ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਆਏ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ। ਸੋ ਇਟਸ ਦਾ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਇਜ਼ ਬਿਕਮਿੰਗ ਅ ਗਲੋਬਲ, ਈਵਨ ਦੋ ਕਿ ਸੈਂਟਰਡ ਤਾਂ ਪੰਜਾਬ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਰਹੇਗੀ ਅਜੇ ਤਾਂ, ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਵੈਸਟ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨੀ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਆ, ਹਿਊਜ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਪਾਪੂਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇਅਰ। ਸੋ ਐਂਡ ਬਿਸਾਈਡਸ ਇਨ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਕਵਿਤਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੋਹੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਦੋਹਰੇ ਲਿਖੇ ਫਰੀਦ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ। ਮੈਂ ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਦੋਹਰੇ ਵੀ ਲਿਖੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਜਸਟ ਫਰੀਦ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ਰਧਾਂਜਲੀ ਦੇਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਬਟ ਸੋ ਦੋਹੇ ਐਪਿਕਸ, ਮਾਡਰਨ ਪੋਇਟਰੀ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੋਸਟ ਮਾਡਰਨ ਤੱਕ ਸਟਰਕਚਰਲਿਜ਼ਮ ਸਾਰੀ ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਆ ਗਈ ਆ ਆਪਣੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਪੋਇਟਰੀ 'ਚ, ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਰਾਈਟਿੰਗ 'ਚ। ਸੋ ਇਟਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰੈਸਿੰਗ pretty good. The only thing is as I experienced recently with my interaction with non-Punjabi writers, Bengali writers, Hindi writers, they are quite ahead than Punjabi in contacting outside India, outside their own languages. Like I've been introduced to like ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੇਨ ਇੰਡੀਅਨ ਆਪਣਾ ਗਲੋਬਲ ਵੈਬਸਾਈਟ ਆ, ਉਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਪੋਇਮਾਂ ਮੇਰੀਆਂ ਆਈਆਂ ਜਿੱਥੋਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬਿਲ ਗੇਟਸ ਨੇ ਪਿਕ ਕੀਤੀ, ਉਹ ਮਹਾਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀਅਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇੰਟਰੋਡਿਊਸ ਕੀਤਾ। ਇੱਕ ਬੰਗਾਲੀ ਰਾਈਟਰ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਵਰਡਸ ਵਿਦਾਊਟ ਬਾਰਡਰਸ ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ 'ਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੀਤਾ ਇੰਟਰੋਡਿਊਸ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਜਰਮਨ ਆਪਣੇ ਮੈਗਜ਼ੀਨ 'ਚ ਮੇਰੀਆਂ ਕਵਿਤਾਵਾਂ ਛਪਵਾਈਆਂ। ਦੇ ਆਰ ਵੈਰੀ ਐਕਟਿਵ। ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵਾਲੇ ਕੰਪੈਰੇਟਿਵਲੀ ਦੇ ਆਰ ਕਾਇੰਡ ਆਫ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ਼ੀਅਲ। ਆਪਣੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹਿੰਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਸਾਈਕਾਲੋਜੀ ਕਿ ਆਪਣੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਬਹੁਤੇ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ। ਸੋ ਦੇ ਹੈਵ ਟੂ open up more. That's my one concern. They should go kind of international. They have good writings. So my recently मेरियां इटली वाले मैगज़ीन छपियां, ग्रीक छपियां, रोमानियन च ट्रांसलेट होइयां अजें छपियां नहीं, कोरियन च ते होर भी एक आयरिश विच छप चुकियां. So it's because ਇੱਥੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਕਰਕੇ. So it's good actually. It's what's wrong in that? It's just Punjabi introduce हो रही है बाहर, है ना. So I think more Punjabis should do that. ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ 'ਚ ਬੈਠੇ especially. Because ਹੁਣ ਤਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ open ਹੈਗਾ. They can explore what's going on in European countries, in America, Canada. So there's one of sore point is that Punjabi, like English, French, German, English belongs to the world. ਕਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਕਹੂਗਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਸੀ English. It doesn't exist. Same way should be with Punjabi. It shouldn't, the Pravasi word should disappear. It's Canadian, could be Canadian Punjabi, British Punjabi, American Punjabi, Indian Punjabi. So it should be at par. When they say Pravasi writers, ਉਹ ਥੋੜਾ degrade, ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ inbuilt degrading feeling. So that's another thing that's preventing the Punjabi, mainstream Punjabi writers to get out. They should give full respect to the people who are writing in America, Canada or British. They are in some ways they are ahead of them. So nobody has produced a book like this, at least in recent history. So, but there is still a Pravasi writing, you know, kind of. That's one thing they should come out of it.